So, this is Sundered, a Lovecraft-inspired Metroidvania with some procedurally generated elements, variations in the level design that you'll be coming across as you go back and forth, and a randomly spawning enemy horde system, is what they're calling it, where enemy positions are by no means fixed, and instead can just be spawned in kind of randomly, to always keep you on your toes and to always provide a little bit of replayability, no matter how many times you play through the game. At least, that's what the developers are claiming. Let me just lower that audio for a second there. When it first started it was fine, but then it really ratcheted up, oh boy. I literally could not hear my own voice. Hey, they actually have subtitles enabled by default. That is fantastic. Wait, that's not subtitles, that's the game's language, the interface language. That's not what subtitles mean. Maybe they're not an English language team. They do have a variety of languages though. Hopefully the translations are nice. My understanding is that independently published video games tend to cheap on the non-English translations a little bit. Hopefully that's not the case here though. So yeah, without much further ado, let me just check out the video settings to make sure there's nothing I want to alter here. There shouldn't be. I should be able to run this fairly smoothly and enjoy all the wonderful art that is sure to lie ahead, so let's get right in. Difficulty selection. Do I be a normie? Do I be a hardcore player? Or I would say do I be an insane motherfucker, but yeah, it looks like insane difficulty is locked from your first playthrough. Probably not a bad idea, that. It keeps idiots from me like selecting it on their first playthrough. Let's go with hard though. How bad could it possibly be? Yes, I'm sure. I wonder if it says that if I select normal. Oh boy. I actually have control now, that's why I was standing there like an idiot for so long. I do wish games would make it more obvious when you have control like that. I always end up standing still for a few seconds whenever something like that occurs, because it's not always obvious when it's just a slow-paced cutscene or you're actually in control. On a 2D plane currently, in case you were wondering, even though it looks like a more three-dimensional sort of thing, I do believe this game is purely a side-scroller, at least from what I've seen. So we're walking across endless sands to something that's probably not going to be good for us. It's a Lovecraft-inspired game. Oh boy, tentacles, although it doesn't look like they're the fun time tentacles. Still though, we seem to be fine. Alright, I'm running around using the left analog stick to control things. D-pad works as well. There doesn't seem to be a difference in any sort of control here. There's no like soft movement with the analog stick, it's just one speed. I have a jump, no double jump. It's a fair bit floaty, but you have a lot of control in the air, which is good. I have a dodge roll, which seems to consume a stamina bar at the bottom there. Oh, there's actually a tutorial here. I guess that'll explain everything as I go along. Some games don't do that, which is why I like to find out the controls right at the first screen. Oh, yep, you have a variable jump. Took a little bit of damage there, probably not a bad thing. Ooh, wall jump right from the start. That is fantastic. I love it when games don't make you wait for cool upgrades like that. So this is going to be a very mobile Metroidvania. Yep, jump down through platforms, genre standard, tiny platforms to jump across, also a genre standard, at least in the more platforming based Metroidvanias. I don't currently have any ability to attack, so defense is my only option. Good, you get iframes on your roll. That is fantastic to know. Health elixirs, Estes system I assume. I'm not going to use it just yet. I'm assuming my number of elixirs is that little pip in the bottom leftmost corner of the HUD. The more reddish looking one rather than the pink one, with the pink one being my health bar. And it looks like I have 2 paths open to me, although it looks like they both lead to the same place ultimately. Ooh, fantastic. This is one of those games that actually lets you pan the camera, and I really like the dynamic zooming. That makes it a lot easier to actually see what's all around the place. But when you're in close quarters and you don't need to see that, you actually end up being more zoomed in, which allows you to get a closer look at things. Which is especially important in a game like this, which has such gorgeous artwork. Seriously, this game is amazing looking. I didn't mention this, I think, but the developers who made this also made Jotun, a game with similarly wonderful artwork. I've never played it though. Alright, so I just used one of my health elixirs and I automatically picked up that next charge. So it seems like I can only hold 1 charge at a time. I'm sure I'll be able to upgrade that eventually.
Een ganschen zerstelek, fauschek leerchlia vakkel. Tritscha, verhat, onan, schätzinger vergeps. Ich sei, gelaf, ik een weitschwierigli auf Bechelkeit. En schalest, uesch mekra krafst. Omek uechli au kamps, lehet.
Hey now. No longer will I have to scurry to and fro like a rat in the walls. I can actually defend myself. So it seems if I delay my button presses, I think I can just... Okay, no, I was gonna say I think I can do an infinite combo, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hit combo with a large, powerful hammer strike on the 5th. Good to know. Alright, so despite it being a side scroller, it looks like there's a bit of 3-dimensionality to things. I can head left, right, or down. Let me figure out what these pips on the map mean in the bottom right. I'm guessing filled in means that those pathways are locked. Yep, that seems to be the case. So I only actually have 1 path open to me at the moment. So, I just took the Shining Trapezohedron for power. That's not going to lead to anything good. I don't know how much they're going to directly take from Lovecraft, but in Lovecraft's works, the Shining Trapezohedron is an artifact associated with Nyarlathotep. Probably the worst elder god to have any sort of business with. The other elder gods, they're so beyond humanity that basically they're not really a threat. They might crush you, they might kill you, they might destroy your mind, but never purposefully, because at the end of the day, you're like an ant to them. Or like an ant is to you, for a more proper comparison. Whereas Nyarlathotep is a bit more like a medieval Satan, in that he's a bit of a trickster, a bit of a dick, honestly. He likes to fuck with humanity directly, and that's why getting involved with him or anything related to him is generally not the best idea. Also, wow, this is an incredibly long loading time. I'm hoping that means that I won't encounter a loading screen for quite some time, like Dark Souls. And immediately we're in a high-tech area. That's not exactly ill-fitting the setting. There's a lot of high-tech stuff in Lovecraft with the alien races you end up encountering. Hold left trigger plus to open the map? What the hell does that mean? Okay, yeah, I just hold left trigger to bring up the full map, and I release to bring it back to the mini-map. I don't get what that plus means. That's just phrased a bit awkwardly, I suppose. Can I interact with this thing in the background? I feel like I should be able to, but I guess not. That'll be a shortcut I can unlock, or probably my exit path to this area. Alright, well, let's head down. And see what awaits me. Hold on, I want to check back up here, make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, no. It's good to be thorough in a Metroidvania. I do question the purpose of all these vines about. They're not exactly a threat. But I suppose that could be an element of the procedural level design. That's actually a hallmark of that sort of thing, is just random bits of useless crap in the environment that don't seem purposefully placed because they're not, they're randomly placed. Oh, hello. Now I can murder these boys. These Cthulhu boys. Of course, they can also murder me. Thankfully, they don't seem to have great platforming ability. They can run up walls, but not much else. That said, they certainly are trying, aren't they? Alright, let's see how effective my melee combo is against a crowd of them. It's pretty damn effective. They're called Aranir. That was one thing I heard about this game, that the combat is very button mashy. You do have to be mindful and dodge when appropriate, but for the most part you can just spam through enemies. I suppose that's fitting if you end up being the avatar of an eldritch abomination of a god. It's not exactly like you're gonna be weak in that instance, you know? They have quite a lot of power, and so as their avatar, you naturally do as well. Oh dear, I am taking damage here, however. Not a whole lot, though. Of course, these basic boys here are quite small, and thus likely quite weak compared to the entirety of the, bestiary, so I imagine I'll encounter enemies later that are a bit more dangerous. Yeah, I've noticed these vines, but I can't seem to actually climb up them in any instances in which they appear. I think they're just environmental decorations, so I guess I'll need a double jump to get up there. I'll try to keep that in mind. Valkyrie Camp, headquarters. Am I actually going to have, like, a home base? Okay. One thing I do wonder about that voice acting, it doesn't sound like a fake language. It sounds measured enough to be a real language, so I wonder if it's perhaps like some non-English language. It's clearly not English. Or perhaps English put through enough filters to distort it significantly. Because occasionally you can hear a word pronounced that is the same as what you see in the subtitles, like eschaton, or what have you. Okay, so I can repeatedly go through platforms. I'm sure that'll be a movement technique I'll need to make use of at some point. Yeah, again, I guess I really only have one path forward, given that most of these doors are locked. We're still in the tutorial stage, it seems. But yeah, I wonder if the language is a real one, or it could also be a fake language that was simply constructed to sound like a real language. That's a thing that sometimes people do. It's a good way of making an alien language without going through the effort of actually developing a literal language. Not everyone is Tolkien, I'm afraid. Okay, there's a locked door right there, and what looks like something I might be able to interact with. Can't get through it just yet. I'm gonna guess that I'm about to fight the first boss, given that giant face icon. I'm not gonna use my health flask just yet, though. I haven't taken much damage. Yeah, this thing is totally going to... come to life, or perhaps not. I guess this is the equivalent of the Chozo statues from Metroid. Yunk. Deflecting shield. Now that I've listened to it a bit more, that voice sounds vaguely Germanish. I don't exactly have a good knowledge of non-English languages though, so don't take my word as gospel. Maybe a Lovecraftian gospel, the kind that is sure to rend your mind in twain, but not the truthful sort. That's an empty square, so this should be unlocked. At least that's what I was seeing thus far. Can I interact? Ah, there we go. I had to press up. Oh, I actually have an upward-facing attack. No actual combo. I do a cool JoJo pose though. Look at this shit. Despite the Lovecraftian influences, this isn't a very Lovecrafty game, which is fine. Having a Lovecraftian Metroidvania that actually fit the themes of Lovecraft's works wouldn't really work in my opinion. I mean, maybe someone could do it, but that would be a very difficult task to be sure. Alright, so that was money, I suppose. I now have 122 smackers. I guess I'll be coming across some sort of NPCs then, if I'm going to be able to make purchases. I like... Ooh, hello there, boys. I like how the map smoothly updates as you discover new rooms. That's pretty cool. Oh, here they come. I'm not going to get out of a fight this time. So yeah, what I picked up was a shield. I did watch a video review of this game beforehand. Super Bunny Hops, if you're curious. He wasn't too keen on this game. Although so far I am quite liking it, so I'm glad I didn't blindly trust his opinions. But in it he described a shield mechanic, which is basically like shields from Halo, or, you know, your typical Halo-inspired FPS. You can take a certain amount of damage before it breaks, and if you go long enough without taking damage, it will regenerate. So that prevents you from taking damage to your health, at least in the immediate future. And preventing you from taking damage entirely if you're actually active enough. It seems that enemies have shields too, either that or that was my shield that broke. It might have been my shield that broke, considering I took a fair bit of damage. Yeah, that's probably the case. Where exactly is the shield indicated on the HUD, though? I noticed a shield breaking, but not like any shield icon, which you think there would be. Yep, my shield just broke again, and yeah, there does not seem to be any HUD element that actually shows off the shield, which is a little bit unfortunate. That seems like a mistake in design. Maybe I'm just missing it. There's so much going on in this game visually that wouldn't surprise me. Although, if that was the case, that would still be a development issue. You kinda gotta make sure that everything is easily perceivable in the game that you're making. Let's bring up the greater map again. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any small side rooms. Let's head southeast. I'm curious if that'll end up leading back around to the other side of that locked icon on the map. I'm curious about that. Well, I'm heading deeper at the moment, so perhaps not, but can't exactly retreat now. Oh, I see where the shield icon is. It is on the HUD, it's just such a small part that it's pretty easily missed. It's actually right below the health bar. It's that bottom tiny blue bar right on the bottom of my health bar. I feel like that, considering it's going to be something that you're going to have to manage a lot, should be more noticeable on the UI. It should be overall larger and easier to see, but that's just me. Okay, there are a lot of enemies. I can see why the developers refer to their enemy spawning system as a horde system. Fortunately, my character, Eshe, I believe her name was, seems very capable of handling this. Okay, and enemies just keep coming. I'm pretty sure they don't spawn infinitely. I'm just having a lot of enemies spawning right now. I'm just gonna take a break and let my shield regenerate a little bit. Those worms are good at attacking vertically, it seems. If I keep attacking them, I should be able to thin out their numbers. Perhaps not before they thin out mine. I'm actually pretty close to death. I do have one more healing charge, though. Just gotta wait for them to land. That's right, that's why I keep taking so much damage. When they land, it's basically an attack, and I didn't fully realize that before. My bad. How the hell did you end up all the way down there? I guess he must have burrowed through the ground. Yeah, let me heal up. That seems like a good idea. Oh, course, if I don't get hit by their attack, then it's difficult to counterattack them before they start digging again. Hey, there does seem to be some complexity to the combat, despite the fact that it is quite button mashy. So that's a good sign. We'll see if that continues to be the case as I continue to proceed. Let's see, bring up the map again. Yeah, this looks like it's going to be its own entirely separate area, although it could still lead back to that lock icon, in which case I'd probably want to head up. I wonder how quickly they'll introduce new enemy types I found too so far. And I would like to have more variety sooner rather than later. Even if there's overall a small variety of enemies, I'd rather they be introduced all at once, rather than a drip feed. That's just how I like things to go. But hopefully there's a good wide variety. There's plenty of crazy designs described by Lovecraft that give an artist a lot of framework to build some truly nightmarish creations. And the artists do seem competent, so hopefully that is the case. I'm just assuming that I don't need to thoroughly explore rooms if there's no actual icons on the minimap. I'm assuming that. Hopefully that's not a mistaken assumption. Because otherwise I'm going to just have to spend a lot of time wandering around rather samey rooms. I am curious how much of this is procedurally generated bits of level, because there are some fixed level bits, from what I understand. Wow, this boy is really juking past me, isn't he? I cannot deal with him. There we go. But yeah, a lot of this does feel like procedural level design in the fact that a lot of it feels kind of pointless. Like, you can tell it wasn't actually designed with any intent in mind. And if that ends up being the case for the level design overall, that is quite a shame, because it is possible to do procedural level design that almost feels like it was actually handcrafted levels. Almost, but not quite. Nothing's good as actually putting the effort to specifically design individual levels. But you can come close if you put in the effort when making your random level generator stuff. A good example of a game that does that actually would be Rogue Legacy. As a roguelike, the platforming Sakai, not the actual classic games that are like Rogue, it actually ends up having a lot of procedural generation. And its procedural level generation is really fucking competent. It does it in the sort of Spelunky way of having chunks that are then slotted together, and there's a good enough variety that you rarely run into ones that are exactly identical. And even if the rooms are the same, usually there are varied enemy spawns. So even though it uses a lot of procedural generation, I'm just going to leave them alone. Even though it ends up using a lot of procedural level generation, the levels still end up feeling pretty distinct, which is good. This game, not so much so far, but I'm still in like the first proper area, so it has room to evolve. I won't make my final judgment just yet. Yeah, okay, I think I see how the procedural generation is likely to work. So I'm guessing that these larger square shapes are sort of the fixed level, and then within them you end up having randomly generated room locations. Like in that room, that greater room that I just explored, that I just exited from, you see those two squares that I first entered at the top. I'm guessing perhaps that they could have been small squares instead, and had different connecting patterns and whatnot. That seems likely to be the case. In which case, even though the individual level design isn't all that great, as I just mentioned, I do kind of like the system in Abstract. The idea of having ogre meteoroids. I don't know what ogre means. I'm just saying nonsense since I'm surprised. Okay, they rush after me with fireballs. They remind me of that one Kirby enemy that you absorb to get fire powers. Not the lion boys, but the fire orbs that appear in not quite every Kirby game, but some of them. If you know what I'm talking about, props to you. Kirby's fucking great. But yeah, I do like this level generation idea in Abstract, because that actually does end up adding a fair amount of replayability. On future playthroughs, if I do end up doing them, I would know roughly where to go, but the exact path I need to take to get to my destinations will vary. And if there's the typical Metroidvania, like open level design and being able to go to different places depending on what you feel like and what upgrades you've collected, this could actually be a game with a lot of content, a lot of replayability. From what I've heard of pre-release... Oh god. reviews, that might not quite be the case. I'm just gonna back off and wait for my shield to regenerate, and maybe get to a safe place perhaps. From what I've heard of pre-release reviews, that might not be the case, but I'll wait for myself to decide on that. Alright, so I seem to have unlocked a shortcut of sorts. That is useful, I suppose. It'll give me a quicker route back. I don't actually know where I would respawn if I die. Would it be all the way back at that first room? I really hope not. That would be very unfortunate. For now, let's just continue on this way as I have been doing. Hopefully I'll pick up another health vial sometime soon. I could really use it. You know, I haven't been what was I was gonna say, like, contenting, what? I mean, I guess, you know, words are content of a sort. Not particularly valuable in my case, but still, as a technicality that counts. I haven't been commenting much on the audio environmental design. It's actually quite nice as well, so far. The music is pretty ambient and creates a nice mood. And there's some nice environmental sound effects as well, and the enemy noises are very good also. So yeah, just visually and aurally, this game is top-notch. Gameplay-wise, it seems decent so far. Not amazing, but it has room to grow or shrink. We'll see what it ends up doing. I'm gonna flee again to give my shield time to regenerate. I need to kill these little boys first. They're the ones who end up hounding me and not giving me enough time to actually rest. The starfish are the more dangerous ones, but they attack far less frequently, so they're less of a prime target. Right, I gotta remember that I do have a limited number of times I can roll. This feels like the kind of game that should have an unlimited roll, but this is the decision they made and I'm just gonna have to work with it. I do feel like their horde system is a little bit overzealous with giving me enemy spawns. I really don't think there need to be quite this many enemies, but that's just me. Yeah, you really want to avoid your shield breaking, because when it does break, you do end up taking a little bit of health damage from the attack that breaks it. And that's been the majority of the damage I've taken thus far. Really gotta watch that shield meter, which only makes it more the case that it should be much larger than it actually is, but that's the decision they made, and I'm just gonna have to live with it. I really want to make it to that glowing thing, but I don't seem to have the movement capabilities necessary. Unless... Ooh, I can do a little repeated wall jump, and I think this might work if I time it just right. I think I'm making vertical progress. Maybe not. I might be barking up the wrong tree or wall as it is. Seriously, I really want that glowy, that currency I'm assuming, but I guess it's just unreachable at the moment. I would say, you know, Metroidvania open world design, but given the fact that it's procedurally generated levels, that's just probably an issue with the level generation. More than anything. So this was kind of a bust. I just fought all of those enemies for kind of nothing. I mean, I got some currency, but I traded health for it, which doesn't seem like all that good of a trade-off, so eh. Let's just move onward, and hopefully I can unlock some permanent progress. More enemies! I'm just going to ignore them since I'm near the exit of a room. I'm assuming they can't follow me to another room, although perhaps that is a foolish assumption to be making. But just gotta get out of here and I shall be good. I really, really hope. Oh, right. I assumed I would be entering into another whole area, which was a foolish assumption to make. I'm still in the same greater area, which means just more and more enemies are gonna come after me as I continue to run away from them. So perhaps I should try and thin their numbers a little bit. Actually, running does seem like it's a pretty effective strategy if you just don't feel like fighting things. They don't do a super good job at following you. Yeah, the ground-based ones at any rate. The ones that fly and end up floating through walls, I really hate that video game trope. They can follow after you pretty handily. So I guess I should be taking them out if I want to run past most of the enemies. At least I have plenty of time to attack them after they attack. I kind of wish I had better air combat. It's... oh, wait a minute. I was gonna say it's not the worst, but I think there's actually more to it than I've initially realized. So, on the ground I have the basic combo, nothing special about that. Do I have a rolling attack? No, in fact I don't even do an attack smoothly out of the roll. I have to wait for the animation to finish completely. That's unfortunate. Oh, get out of here, you. I'm trying to test out my combat maneuvers. And I mean, you'd think doing so against actual enemies would be ideal, but not when I'm still figuring them out. I'd rather do so when I don't have things constantly trying to murder me, you know? Holy crap! How many boys are there? Is this just an infinite boy generator? Jeez. So, what I really want to test out is the aerial moves. So it seems just attacking forward do these repeated scythe slashes, but it seems I also can aim the attacks, at least that seemed to be the case. Yeah, so I have a ground pound, presumably it hits a little bit around me. Hopefully it's damaging. And then if I strike upward in the air, I actually end up doing a bit of a launcher, which I can then follow into a typical air combo, it seems. So I do actually have a fair amount of variety with my current combat moves. I just haven't realized and thus haven't been making great use of them. And hopefully that continues to evolve. This does seem like it's going to be a more combat-focused Metroidvania, which is, again, a really odd decision considering the Lovecraft themings, but hey. So, since it is going to be heavily combat-focused, it looks like, I really hope they continue to evolve the combat. And the mechanics I have now aren't the only ones I'm going to have ever. Oh no, here are some more boys. I wonder if what causes enemies to spawn is proceeding to a certain area on the map, or if it's a time-based thing. Having it be a time-based thing would create a sense of urgency for the player, for getting through the environments as quickly as possible to avoid being swarmed. But I feel like for a Metroidvania style of game, having it be location-based makes more sense. That way you're given more time to freely explore and especially enjoy the art. If you're constantly running through areas without having the time to just stop and look at the daisies, you're not going to get to enjoy all this brilliant art, which would definitely be a design mistake, considering how good the art is. So I couldn't unlock that door down there for some reason, but hopefully I can unlock this one. I'd really like a shortcut. Wait a minute. Oh, I'm all the way... wait, no. Okay, I was mistaking that symbol. Yeah, for that one over there where I collected that artifact. This right here, this is probably a boss room. That's why I couldn't open up that other door. It's going to be the exit. So before I drop there, let me make sure I unlock this shortcut. I get the feeling I'm probably not going to take out this boss on my first try, especially with my healing and health as low as it is. So having a quick route back would definitely be ideal. So, there's what looks like a battery icon over there. I wonder if that's a collectible I could pick up. Something that could help me against the boss. Actually, I might need to do that to fight the boss. Yeah, the boss is currently locked for me. Okay.